use it or lose it. What a massive weekend we've got ahead. It is, of course, Rugby World Cup final time. I cannot wait for Saturday. I've just been sitting waiting by the water polo pool for my daughter to finish and chatting with guys on Twitter. Lots of debate about who should be the big favourites for this game, who's going to win the game. I can tell you there's plenty of support out there for the Boxers. Someone who's got their money on England from the start of the tournament. I've had to defend my position quite a bit. Looking really forward to analysing both semi-finals and also, of course, talking about the final with the panel tonight. So without further ado, let's introduce the panel. I'm going to start with a man. He's been up in the Kruger Park having a little bit of a holiday for a while, so he's missed a few shows, but no doubt he's been able to watch a bit of TV. It's Couch Critic Kind Demand. Couch, welcome to the show. Good to have you on board.
How's it, Brent? Thanks, man. Yeah, it's good to be back. It was a good break, but luckily I didn't miss much in terms of watching. So it's all guns blazing for the final.
It certainly is. We're going to be in for a very exciting final. Just to welcome the guys in the live chat, we've already got quite a few of you putting comments up. I'll put them up as the show goes on. But let's go down to the Cape where we've got Judge Rugby. He's certainly been enjoying the game. He was over in England in the early parts of the World Cup, but he's joined us for the last couple of episodes. Judge, good to have you back on the show. What a cracking weekend of semi-finals we had.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's incredible rugby. Just New Zealand being put to bed how they were is something we could probably talk about on its own. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. Plus, obviously, looking ahead to the big final.
Yeah, looking very forward to that. And Tyler Masutu77 on Twitter, just to get his Twitter address right. He's been hell of an active on Twitter. I've really been enjoying some of your tweets, analysing the game. Good to have you back on the show, and looking forward to the final, no doubt.
Yeah, it's good to be on the show, and it's good to see how the World Cup is shaking up. Having that North-South final, as it was discussed earlier in the tournament, so it's going to be good to see how it plays out on Saturday.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to it, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it pans out. But let's start off, guys, by having a look at the semi-finals that took place. And I think we had two very contrasting semi-finals on the weekend. I mean, the England-New Zealand game was it was dominated by England, but it was action all the way through. The Wales-South Africa game, we'll talk about a bit later, was very much, I think, as most of us expected it to be, very much a kicking contest, much more strategic, almost like a game of chess there between the sides. But Tyler, I'm going to start with you. That England performance against the All Blacks, can you ever recall seeing a side dominate the All Blacks like that?
I think not as comprehensively as England did on Saturday. We've seen Ireland, we've seen Australia, we've seen the Lions, we've seen the Springboks all win against New Zealand the last 4 years. But I think what England were able to do was to shut down any sort of threat on all sorts of phases. And I mean, when we won against New Zealand last year in Wellington, New Zealand was still able to get into the 22. Even with the Lions match, there was still a few sort of lucky breaks that the Lions were able to stop, and to an extent with the Irish game. But with England on Saturday, they were able to sort of shut them down from the haka, it seemed like. I think the formation worked pretty well, and maybe that even caught New Zealand off guard. But then from that first minute, they got that very quick try, and England is very good on starting games sort of on the front foot. And then from there, what they did well was just pin New Zealand in their 22, make them have to attack from deep. And I mean, yes, New Zealand has the best runners or strike runners in world rugby probably, but if you have to start from your 22 in all of your attacks, you aren't going to get too successful with that. So England executed a perfect game plan actually from yesterday, and it was a masterclass, and Eddie Jones and the team just deserve all the credit for that.
He certainly is a shrewd coach. Let's go on to Judge now. Judge, one of the things I'm interested in your opinions of the game, but also just one of the things I felt watching that game was England never really looked threatened out wide. There was the one time where Reece sort of got around, and then the TMO had a look at the tackle there. I think it was Slade coming in and tackling. But you never got the feeling, you got the feeling the All Blacks were trying to get it out wide, but England just never looked in trouble. They always seemed to close it down. It was certainly one of the best defensive efforts I've ever seen, but I think Eddie Jones correctly picked up that you can't just defend against New Zealand. You've got to attack as well. And for me, what impressed was the 80-minute performance by the English.
Yeah, they it's weird. Like you normally get an inkling of teams and how they're looking leading into a World Cup. It's very seldom that a team actually only starts playing in the World Cup, and that's pretty much what's happened with England. Like no team has faced this England side yet. Not any of the guys of the Six Nations this year or anything. They're completely different. Eddie Jones has hidden everyone away really nicely and his game plans and stuff. So I thought they were incredible. I think they were properly up for it. I think the scariest part about England is they believe and you know, with a side that is that good, dominant up front, such cool, calm heads in very key positions. And if they believe, it's going to be very difficult to beat them. I think I thought New Zealand were just completely taken away from the game. Like I thought they were schooled, and you don't ever get to say that. Like not in our lifetime, you know. And they really got put to bed. And you know, we're mentioning off air now, like New Zealand were one poor line out away from being nilled in a semi-final of a World Cup. Like that was a reality, and that's what's scary. And then just quickly, I think I will say one thing. I do feel that that New Zealand took Scott Barrett off a little early. They took him off just at the start of the second half. I really thought that might have been, I really thought that was an error, especially at the time. I thought that wouldn't be the right call. But I think they missed him in the second half. But England were on another planet.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Judge. To me, it almost struck me as Hansen saying he almost made a mistake with his selection up front by the fact that he made that change so soon. And yet I didn't think Barrett was bad. In fact, there was one point where Barrett closed down. I think it was Johnny May, the English winger. I was actually pretty impressed with him. And I also thought that there might have been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction and perhaps moving too soon on that one. I guess at the point, Hansen, things weren't going his way, and he just had to sort of do something, he felt, to change the tide of the game, but it certainly didn't work. And Couch, let's move on to you on this game. You managed to watch the game in full. I know you were out in the bush on your way back at this stage.
Yeah, Brent, I actually just watched it as a rerun, but the full game. But I must say, I was chased by an angry elephant bull for like a kilometer, and I saw a leopard chowing a impala in a tree, and I spent an hour at a hyena lair with a cub lying under the car, so I couldn't move. But nothing out of that was more impressive than the English. It was incredible. They just completely shut them out. So I mean, that was an impressive performance. And as the guy said, you know, we've seen the All Blacks being beaten by the Boks, the Aussies, and Ireland, but they've never been absolutely dominated like that. That was incredible. Like you said before the show, you were really never concerned or felt like the All Blacks could win it. They were just not in the game, and you know, we've physically taken them approach and their skills, and in general they just took them down completely. So it was amazing.
Excellent. Just welcome to all the guys in the live chat. I'm putting some of the comments up on screen. The only nape. The pressure is all on England as they are the favourites. Just wanted to have a look at a couple of other comments. There was one that was directed to Judge there, and I'll bring you back there, Judge. Joe Lyons saying the ABs had so many handling errors, missed kicks, and bad set play. They were not mentally there. Now, it's an interesting point he makes there, because if you watch that All Blacks performance and you just look at the All Blacks, it is tempting to say they weren't there. They didn't rock up at the game. But there's another angle to that, is that England didn't let them arrive at the game. They dominated them from the start, and they just pushed them down. And that's my view. I've always taken a view that this perhaps isn't one of the great All Black sides. And for me, England, Eddie Jones had his plan, and they stuck to it for the 80 minutes. Which side of the line would you be falling on there?
I 100% agree with you. I think the All Blacks were always going to be up for a big game and properly into it, but England didn't give them anything. They didn't let them get a sniff in anyway. And England just kept on the pressure. Like even when the All Blacks scored, you generally feel that they're going to kick on from there, but it just didn't look like it was going to happen. It was very strange, and it's definitely, I don't think that this is going to become a norm in terms of how All Blacks are going to be dominated. I think this was once off, and one thing I will take my hat off the Aussies and the Kiwis, they're very, very good at turning things around once they come undone, they're sorted out. But the other thing I was thinking of is the All Blacks haven't put through two solid performances in a row this whole year. So not even during the Rugby Champs, maybe even a bit last year, they didn't really put through two dominant performances in a row. So it's quite interesting. There's definitely a couple of cracks over there, and they're going to obviously shake it up now with Hansen, with the new coach and stuff coming in. So I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to say that we can get the better of them continuously, you know.
Well, my view, Tyler, to bring you in here, is that the Northern Hemisphere is on the up now. I was very disappointed with Ireland last week. They clearly looked like they peaked a year or so before the World Cup. But I just get the feeling with Eddie Jones, if you look at England, they were playing brilliant rugby 2 years ago. Then they sort of underwent a bit of a dip. They haven't won the Six Nations for a couple of years. And he sort of brought the guys to a boil at just the right time. But I'm thinking, if I look at even the under-20 results of recent years on that, this could be the start of a bit of, I don't want to say domination, because you're never going to take the All Blacks out the game totally. But getting to the point where we might actually see a Northern Hemisphere side start favourites in 2023.
Yeah, I think, look, the All Blacks did something just unprecedented in dominating world rugby for the past decade. Literally since we beat them in the Tri-Nations in 2009, up until probably, let's say, the Lions series in 2017, they were far and ahead the best team in the world. And basically from that Lions series, the whole world has been sort of just making up ground. And I think we have a lot to thank Warren Gatland for showing us what the blueprint is in terms of stopping New Zealand and sort of that pressure and dominating them physically. And then all the other teams started coming sort of closer to them, while also maybe players like Reid and players like Whitelock maybe are sort of at the sort of down of their careers. And, in hindsight, that's a great thing, but maybe Sam Whitelock and Kieran Reid should have been maybe slowly started to be phased out in terms of their keenness in the roles that they had. And it's a difficult thing. Obviously, you don't want to throw away that 100 caps experience from both of them and from other players as well. And I don't think they played bad. It's just that thing of like, when do you sort of pull the trigger on replacing the new players and getting the new sort of squad in? So I think that is hindsight. Hindsight's always 2020. But full credit to England and full credit to sort of the rest of the world for catching up to the standard that the All Blacks set and for setting up the plan. Like you, Brent, I thought Ireland was going to be the one to do it because they seem to have the game plan set for that. Then they didn't show up. And then on Saturday, England just played amazingly. And think about it, they also had 20 points that they missed from 2 disallowed tries, a missed drop goal, and a missed penalty from Elliot Daly. So this really could have been 37-0 or 39-0, whatever. And I don't think anyone would have ever predicted that. But England just executed their game perfectly. They dominated them in all the sort of the aspects of the game. And, Steve Hansen was right in just saying, look, the better side won in the day. They have nothing to complain about. So it will be interesting to see what they do sort of in the next phase. And England also has a very, very young team. I don't think everyone in that team, except for maybe Marler and Dane Coles, should probably be back for 2023. So it's set up for England, and we'll talk about South Africa later, but I think it's also set up for South Africa for them to maybe even return as the finalists in 2023, but we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit there.
Yeah, we certainly. There's even France as well have got a very strong junior side, and that English junior side strong. But sorry, at one point there, both Couch and myself were having a little bit of a chuckle there. It was a bit of a private joke because you mentioned about Kieran Reid. Now, I've been saying for quite a while, I thought Reid was a bit past it. And in the quarterfinals, Couch made a comment in one of our WhatsApp groups, sort of, Kieran Reid doesn't exactly look past it. And of course, I went and searched for that, found it after this New Zealand game and brought it up there. And Couch, look, he didn't have a bad tournament, but perhaps Hansen did get his selections a bit wrong.
Brent, on him particularly, I think it's a tough one because he was short loose forwards in general. So there wasn't a lot. Obviously, you could have played Ardie at 8, but I'm actually of the opposite opinion. I think he came in light on experience there. If you look at that back line, it's easy saying that in hindsight, but he's trying to win a World Cup with a fly-off who didn't have 20 test caps behind him, playing the best fly-off in the world from the previous year at fullback. His wingers both had less than 10 test caps. Goody is starting at outside centre at less than 15. I don't think that's ever been done, trying to win a World Cup with as little experience as that in the backs. And I think it kind of showed there. They were a bit caught flat there in that crucial game. And even some of the forwards, it wasn't. We've been saying it for probably more than a season there. The All Black dominance up front wasn't as big as it usually is. And even a Brody Retallick, he wasn't up to his usual standard after coming back from that injury and really making that impact. And to go back to that very first point, I actually think Scott Barrett was pretty decent and making a bit of a physical presence felt then, and it was a strange decision to pull him out, because I think that's the kind of thing that I've always been saying the All Blacks lack there, is that big ball carrying our six and enforcers. So to me, there was just a little bit of a chink in the armor in terms of their makeup this year, but it will be interesting to see what a new coach does with them going forward. I don't see them dropping out completely. You can just look at Mitre 10 and there's some top quality there, but it's just about blending that with the right kind of experience and obviously some good physical specimens, I suppose.
I want to go back to Judge now to ask his opinion on Eddie Jones. Judge, I don't know. I know you're not on Twitter at the moment, but I don't know if you still follow it and that. A lot of Eddie Jones, some of his chirping, and I mean, him and Hansen it was all pretty good-natured stuff before the start, but I think it was Gatlin kind of hinting that, maybe England have played their final a week before, as it tends to happen. And then Eddie Jones says, send my best wishes to Gatlin and sort of best of luck for the bronze medal match type of thing. I just love Eddie Jones' style, but I think he might be one of those guys you either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, I like the banter. I saw a lot of it today and on the weekend. And to be fair, the coaches have been dishing it out a fair amount. If you look at like Chaker, Hansen to a certain degree, but they've never really been under too much pressure besides this weekend. But Chaker and Eddie Jones, they masters at taking the pressure off their team. They'll go and say and do whatever they need to. Oaks don't talk about the team. They talk about the clown coach and blah blah blah. Doesn't matter. They really don't give a flying shit about it. So I think it's great. I think the banter's good. I don't think Eddie Jones is arrogant. I think he's on top of his game. He knows what he's doing. He's confident in his team. It all depends on how you want to look at it. So I think it's going to be good. There's going to be some good banter. I think if you're looking at, Rassie, John Mitchell, Eddie Jones, in terms of rugby brains, they're incredible. And this week we are in for a hell of a lot of fun pre-kickoff and during the game.
Excellent. Well, guys, if you've got anything more to add on England, we can certainly chat about that as we chat about the final. But let's move on to the second semi-final now. And Kutch, I'm going to pop back up and start with you on this one. It was Wales against South Africa. Very much the kicking fest that most of us expected. I did have the feeling, Couch, and I was ultimately disappointed with the result. Springboks by 3. I thought they would win by 8 or more. As you know, I backed them on the handicap there. I thought there were opportunities there that they could put a Welsh team away. And in my view, maybe I'm underestimating the Welsh, but I really felt they were hanging on. I thought France were very unlucky not to beat them. And at the end of the day, they had a tremendous amount of injuries, even in the game itself. They were there for the taking, and I just felt the Boks weren't able to really put the hammer down and take advantage of that. But I guess a win is a win.
Yeah, Brent, just quickly on the handicap there, I saw you guys were pretty bullish and I didn't quite understand it, to be honest. I haven't seen this Bok team really put anyone away, and it's not in the nature, it's not the style Rassie plays to just put the boot in, or sorry, it is to put the boot in, but you know what I mean, to go for the kill. I was expecting this. I was expecting a kicking game. I was expecting it to be tight, and as Rassie's already said, it's going to be exactly the same in the final. So there was nothing surprising me there. But if we take out the emotion of I've got my jersey on and I'm chuffed the Boks are there and it's fantastic, and we'll get to the final later. It's a once-off. Anything can happen. But Skalkberger, who by the way is probably the best analyst SuperSport has ever employed, made a decent comment there, and he said it's great that the Boks are there, but honestly, England are the better team. They've got an attacking structure which we don't have, and that's so true. We pretty much play a Villy and hope he can do something on attack, and Damien Dalende bashes up, and then we rely on solid defense and really playing a good forward game and decent tactical kicking. So that's just what we're going to do. We're going to set our stall, set the camp, and hope they make a mistake. Finals and semi-finals are about the team that makes the least amount of errors, and we're just going to try and make less errors. But to me, the Boks have only beaten Japan before that game. That's the only game they've beaten that matters, and to me, Japan weren't that tough. So, they haven't really knocked anyone over except Wales at this stage, where England have knocked over Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand. So it's, you can't compare the two. It's all England. England should be the favourites, and I'm not saying we can't win, but there's no doubt about it. To me, the Boks weren't impressive, and they haven't impressed me thus far. We've got players out of form, but we said this before the tournament. They've got their restrictions and things that they can do and things that they can't do, and what they can do, they do well. And we just got to hope that that's going to be enough.
Right, Tyler, let's go on to you then. Now, interesting point for me, and I see a lot of it coming out in the live chat, of South Africa unable to take advantage of the attacking opportunities. I almost felt that both teams only really threw caution to the wind twice in that match. I mean, there was obviously a little bit more. The South Africa try, which ultimately Damien scored, I mean, we had a penalty advantage. So you'd argue, were we really throwing caution to the wind? I mean, we knew we'd come back for the penalty. And suddenly we ran the ball and we looked good and we scored. And then if you look at Wales, they chose that scrum at a time when they needed to get a try to get back into the game. If anything, they'd been bossed in the scrum, so it looked like a pretty risky call. And then they sort of went wide, and it was at the time when they scored that try, I thought, hell, that was too easy. I mean, they really made that look easy. And you actually found yourself thinking at the end of the game, Wales missed the trick as well. They actually should have probably tried to play a more expansive game. Did you also have that feeling that both sides could have done a bit more in the game?
Yeah, look, I think we all, like Couch was saying, we all know how both coaches would have approached the game sort of initially, and they set it up in the first 40 minutes. Tried to, basically, it was one of those, no, you have the ball, no, you have the ball type of games, and tried to make the other team sort of play from deep and force them under pressure with your defense. And, when both teams are doing that, no one really does take the initiative. And then it does come up with like set piece penalties or who's working in the breakdown and all that sort of stuff. So that was expected. I think what surprised me about, and I mean, look, the Boks, I think, were just let down sometimes by just some basic handling and kicking errors. Like kicks went a bit too far sometimes. We had there was some good sort of attacking opportunities, and there's some drop balls and some passes and all that sort of stuff. And the one time we did sort of string some phases together, we scored, and it was relatively easy. Pollard had that run through the middle, and then Dialendi just stood up damn big on and got the score. What surprised me about Wales, and I made the point earlier today on Twitter, is that I was so shocked that they went for this. They tried to sort of go and do the pick and goes and do the one-off runners just close to the ruck and try to sort of take on the Springboks around the rucks and sort of go up against their forwards. I thought that was the last thing you want to do against the Springboks side. I don't think that's the thing you should do. You shouldn't take on sort of this brute of a pack sort of like on hand-to-hand combat. You need to sort of at least take it at least one sort of pass wider. You need to take it at least sort of maybe play around your fly off. You need to take it away from the likes of Kitsoff and Marks and Franco Low from being able to sort of pilfer and slow the ball down. So what happened was Wales would just do the one-off runners. They get hit back sort of a meter back, and all of our sort of better sort of pilferers, which are on in the second half, would get on the ball and slow the ball down. So I found that very strange because they had a lot of success early on from sort of Jonathan Davies sort of manipulating Spoon Nkosi a little bit, because Nkosi would sort of shoot up and Davies would either use the pass or a kick to just sort of get behind him. So I thought at least they would sort of continue that phase. So I thought Wales should have actually played a little bit wide and should have not necessarily sort of gone helter-skelter, but at the very least play off 10 and just get it a bit wider, because you don't want sort of to go to that spider web of Springbok over 100 kilogram sort of players just waiting for you to hit you back towards Cardiff. And I just found the tactic there from Gatland a bit, I don't think that was the best tactic. And I think ultimately Wales should look at this and say that they actually, because South Africa wasn't putting the game away, Wales should have actually just won that game, and they sort of lost a good opportunity to get into the final.
Excellent. Yeah, let's go to Will. We're going to come back to Couch. I know he's got another point to make, but Judge, let's get your opinion on this game then. Did it turn out pretty much the way you expected, but disappointed in both teams?
I, like you, thought that we should have maybe taken it by 15 more, or 15 plus. And every time I looked up, I felt very comfortable while watching the game. I really thought that we were on top of things. I thought that we were dominating. But then whenever I looked at the score, we were not far ahead where we should have been, I felt. I think, got to understand, you can say what we want about them being professional players and everything. It's still nerves. it's a semi-final of a World Cup. If we 2.5 years ago, just before Rassie took over, if you said South Africa would play in a World Cup semi-final, let alone a World Cup final, we would have said, done, we'll take it. So, like, I think there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of uncharted territory. I think for both sides, a semi-final of the World Cup with the potential of playing in the final was uncharted territory, and I think that's what affected both the teams. I thought we made the usual suspects made the errors. I thought, you know, we're looking very, very good in 90% of our space, and I just think that, you know, Faf had a really good game on Saturday. He did make errors though, but he had a much better game, and Faf didn't pitch up because, to be fair, it's maybe the first or maybe second game in the World Cup that he's legit pitched up. If he didn't, we would have lost on Saturday. And that's how important it is. We're getting to that point now where we can't afford for Faf, Pollard and Villy not to perform. And we need everyone else to continue performing, because hardly any of our players have put a foot wrong. Like, our guys have been doing really, really well, barring the guys that we've been keeping an eye on. I think Faf, like, his kick, we know he's going to kick. I don't have a problem with the kicking. I have a problem with the quality of the kicking, and that's so key when we've got the best chasers in the game, you know. So yeah, I thought it was tight. It was a lot tighter than I expected. I think Wales are 2 injuries too far down the line. They've been picking up injuries consistently over the last year, and they just don't have the depth. Like, the fact of the matter is they just don't have the depth. You know, they're missing such key players. They've lost 2 of their 8th men. They've lost their fly half. The other fly half, Dan Bigger's heads, I'm not sure his head's 100% right after taking all those knocks, losing their fullback. Like, there's a hell of a lot of injuries. So yeah, but we're in the final, and hey man, looking forward to it.
Excellent. Couch, you wanted to say a bit more on the game. Before you do that, just to welcome all the guys on the live chat. We've got a lot of new names there. I haven't seen the name Lonely the Brave. Lonely are the Brave. And also on Facebook, a good few watching. Tammy and Bruce have commented on the Facebook page as well. It is new that we are streaming. This is only about our 3rd show that we're streaming to Facebook and to YouTube simultaneously. So good to have you all along with us. Couch, any final comments on the semi-final with Wales?
Brent, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more on the box and both England for the final. But just quickly, I saw on Twitter one of the regular guests on here as well, Brendan Shields, initiated something there which actually caused quite some feedback. So it was quite nice. He talked about the box playing too conservatively and having to change their style if they want to, you know, try and lure youngsters back to the game and things like that. And you know, it's a rhetoric that we've heard quite a lot. And I'd actually like to ask you three, in terms of your comments, whether, you know, is it the case of Rassie being too conservative, and even if we, you know, come close in the final, it's not really going to mean much. Maybe if we win, it'll mean enough to try and lure people, but it's not going to be that important because we didn't play a decent style of rugby that's almost entertaining to watch, or do you guys think it doesn't matter, you know, if you get the cup, you get the cup, and that's great for the country? I don't know, Brent, maybe you can start off and I can ask you a question this time.
Yeah, well, I'll answer that question. I mean, at the end of the day, if South Africa win the cup, if they win the cup and they win it all on penalties and they kick the living daylights out of that ball and they win the cup, everything is going to be fine. And I think we could do that against Wales. As you said, Couch, it was expected against Wales. I did think that we would do it well enough that we would beat Wales a little bit more comfortably than we did. So I think in that sense, I think the worry is, and Chris Sturdy raised it on the Good for the Game forum as well, I think the worry is, can you get away with just being so one-dimensional against a side like England? Because they've clearly got more to offer. So my view is, it's too late for, I mean, I think Rassie is going to make, I mean, he's a shrewd coach. He's going to come up with something a little bit new for the final. Eddie Jones is going to probably have thought about that, and he's going to come up with a lot of stuff. But ultimately, I can't see us changing our game plan too much. I think that's what we've built our game around, and I think we've got limitations in certain areas that prevent us playing from a really attacking game at the moment. So that's my view. At the end of the day, I think the point, and I saw that thread because I see a rugby college, Brendan Shields, he's taking quite a lot of abuse from guys saying he's an exile, you know, he used to live in South Africa, and saying he's having a go at South Africa. And I think he's taking harsh abuse, if I can call it that, because I think he's making some jolly good points there on Twitter. But I think ultimately, yes, we'd like South Africa to play more attractive rugby. But you know what? When you come down to a World Cup final, even the most, I mean, look at New Zealand. They play brilliant, attractive rugby. Yes, they kick a lot in that, but they're the most attacking team in the world. And like Judge said, I mean, they got to try from a sort of a line-out error, and that was it. And that's what playoff rugby comes down to. But I'll let Tyler give his opinion on that as well.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you win, and you take all the spoils for the win as well. So I think it's one of those things that most of the World Cup winning teams that I can think of from memory are all basically sort of defense first, dominate up front, have strong loose forwards type of teams. And maybe except for the 2015 World Cup team, the New Zealand team, to an extent, then that's a bit more sort of getting your backs in. But that's because they had an all-time fly-off in Dan Carter. So at the end of the day, I think I do think he will sort of maybe try to go for a fast start and try to sort of get a few points early. So that I think is also on the table. But I think what Brendan was saying, I think is also just a long-term thing than maybe a game plan for this week. So long-term, we do need to look at why, not even just the game plan, I think it's just the execution from the backline players most of the time. There's too many drop balls and just execution of skills that you expect a lot better from professional players. Like Pollard has had at least 2 drop balls in every match. LaRue, we don't even want to start talking about him. And it's just been like all these little sort of drops in like just basic skills at the wrong time. And that's what New Zealand has used sort of as their basis of just being good with the basic skills of catch and pass, of offloading, and that's how they sort of capitalize on it. So, yeah, I think that's sort of a future conversation, and hopefully whoever the new coach is just working on those basics. But, you know, tomorrow on Saturday, all we need is just if Pollard just takes 20 drop goals like Yanni De Beer, then, you know, that's fine.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, that's all you need. A lot of the guys, I was bringing up some of the live comments, and most guys are saying if you win ugly, it really doesn't matter. I want to bring Judge in on this one, but I also just want to quote something else I saw on Twitter. I don't know if it was today on the weekend. Rugby, who I think Judge also knows quite well from the Twitter. I mean, he always comes with some very interesting analysis on the game. And he was saying, think of South Africa sort of as a fighter that's kind of underprepared almost for the fight, if I remember correctly. And he was basically saying, in that situation, you go to the basics and you do what you do well. And what South Africa can do well is they can muscle up out front and they can defend and they can kick and chase and all the rest. And effectively what he's saying, and I think LB mentions it here as well, he says 2 years is not really maybe long enough to really get your attacking patterns going. I think some very good points there by Worm Rugby as well there, Judge.
100%. And, you know, if you look at it, it's 2 years that Russie's been in charge, where he said it would take 3 years to sort out his defensive pattern. So he hasn't even gone to looking at anything else. But if you look at it, to be quite honest, it's since 2015, it's 4 years ago that we actually we were down in the dumps. So we've had a lot of things that we needed to change. The fact that we are where we are is, like, the truth is, if anyone said that we were going to be in the World Cup final and potentially win the World Cup a couple of years ago, like, that would have been laughed off, you know. So, like, I don't think we're that boring. I really don't. I think we execute what we need to do badly, and that comes with, like, what Tyler spoke about, like, there's just pure execution. But I mean, look at how many tries our outside backs have scored. We've scored plenty of tries this tournament. You know, that doesn't come from a boring side. I think where we've got to work a little bit, we've got to muscle up a little bit more. I think England are going to be attacking attacking their big runners off outside the 10 and 12 channel, like their little tip-ons. They love doing that. They've got multiple runners and offload, so they gain the advantage line. And when they get the advantage line, they strike really hard and well. They execute to perfection. So, you know, that's the thing. I don't see us changing the game plan too much. I don't think it'll be worth our while to change the game plan too much. I really think, the guys are still trying to get used to the game plan and still need to execute it better, because if we execute our game plan well, if we execute our kicks well, that they are not necessarily contestable, but that we can actually get up and make that tackle and stop the passes and the runs, then we drive them back 20, 30 meters. It's when the kick goes 15 meters too far that they can fling in 2 passes and kick for another corner, then it's a waste of a kick for me. So, like, that's what we need to focus on now. And I think we might. I don't think there's going to be too much rejigging with personnel. I think we're pretty much set with the side. It'll be a bit risky, but I think we're going to have much of the same. I don't see why we need to change it. We haven't perfected what we're doing as it is yet, and we just need to make sure we get up in their faces.
That's it. Well, it all set us up now for the talk moving on to the final, which is going to be an absolute cracker. Yes, Couch?
Brent, can I just finish off from my side and why I just introduced it? I actually think he had a decent point. I mean, we would like to see a bit more of a total game there. So I'm with Brendan going forward. We'd obviously all love to see. I disagree slightly with Sean and the guys. I don't think our attacking setup is nearly good enough. I don't think it's just the execution thing. I think there's still lots of things that needs to be built in there. We need to have dummy runners. We need to have options. There's a lot of things. But as LB said, and I said before the World Cup as well, that, Rassie had limited time and he decided to go for defense and decided to go for a strong spine. And that's what he stuck with. And that's what we get in the final conversation around guys like Willie and Faf as well. And, obviously nothing's going to change for this Sunday. I agree with you though, Brent, and Sway said it as well. He said, don't be surprised if Rassie pulls a trick like Faf dummying a kick and going wide quite quickly and trying to catch England with a quick try like that. So we could see something like that, but they definitely won't change in a week's time, personnel or strategy. But I do agree that going forward, it would be nice to see the Boks try and develop their game a little bit to do something that's a little bit more total. And I think that's almost where England are starting to get themselves. So I think as you said, he took a little bit of unnecessary flack, and I think it is something to strive to.
Yeah, certainly. Could we look at a couple of questions? We will talk about the likelihood of a high or low scoring game. Now, a question relating around the bookies line of 36.5 points. Just a reminder to anybody watching, we do a betting focus show on Thursday nights. That's at 9:00, the handicap rugby chat that matters, where we put our money where our mouths is. And certainly last week was very entertaining. I managed to make myself a few rand off Oracle Rugby, who was pretty bullish on New Zealand hammering England in that quarterfinal. So we will touch on that though. But let's move on. Let's move on to the final. And let's start, Tyler, with yourself on this one. And let's start perhaps with England. Eddie Jones, what's he going to have up his sleeve for us? I mean, for example, one of the big things, if you look at Eddie, the quarterfinals, he left forward on the bench and he started, Farrell at 10. And then he comes out for New Zealand and he brings Ford in. Ford, I thought, played superbly as well. What's he going to do for us? What would you do if you were Eddie?
I think I'd go with basically the same team. I think Eddie Jones's plan is have all of his sort of ball players start the game, and then his finishers are sort of the more tight set piece type of players, especially in the forwards. So where we sort of bring on Kitsoff and Marks and all those sort of like impact players, they start with the impact players. So they have Vunipola, they have Sinclair, they have Courtney Laws in. And I think what their sort of mandate is to smash the opposition back, is to make big runs, is to sort of cause havoc for them. And then at the end, bring on the finishes. And the weakness, though, for England is if they start with Vunipola and with Sinclair, is I do think they're not as good scrummers as the two props on the bench are. I do think that they were under pressure against Australia. I think that that's something that both Beast and Malherbe can actually have a bit of fun with. I think that's one place that South Africa can really focus on, to put some pressure on them in the scrums and to put some pressure on Itoje in the lineouts as well, because he's not an experienced lineout caller. So contest from 2, 4, 6, just get all your jumpers up and just put them under sort of strict, really hard pressure. So I'm expecting sort of the same sort of team. I personally might sort of switch the roles and start with the tighter forwards first. I think starting with Coles and starting with Marlon, getting that sort of basis for your scrum right, and then starting with George Cruz instead of Courtney Laws. I would personally prefer to do that. But I think I see what Eddie Jones is trying to do in terms of just basically just smashing in the first 20 minutes and trying to get, your team sort of 5, 10, 15 points back behind. Then in terms of the back line, I think George Ford does start. I think George Ford's weaknesses in defense are a bit overstated. There was a stat that was going around this week saying that he's actually the fly-off with the highest tackle completion rate in the world right now. So I do, and he's a rugby league boy. His father was a big rugby league player, so I think it's not necessarily that he misses that many tackles or more tackles than the average fly-off. I just think that because he's a small fly-off, it's sort of made more of a bigger thing when he misses misses a tackle than other fly-offs do. So I don't think he's that weak, but I do think, Dialendi, that's somewhere that he can target. I think the benefits that he brings in terms of the attacking game, in terms of getting the ball wide quickly to the wings, is what he brings, because he's probably England's best passer, sort of similar to what Alton Yankees is for us. And then his kicking game is just brilliant. So that's where they put New Zealand under pressure, and that's where we'll be put under pressure if we do only sort of kick from 5 de Klerk, is that they have 4 kickers in Ford, Farrell, Daly, and Ben Youngs to try and pin us deep in our 22. So I think more or less the same sort of game plan that they did on Saturday. I think the nice thing that England sort of got as a benefit is that because New Zealand started with Scott Barrett, they actually had a nice practice run of how the Springboks kind of play. They had the big blindside flank that like we have with Peter Steph du Toit. And I saw an interview that Curry did, and he said that, when you have a taller flank like that, you have to just go low and you use that advantage to get ahead of them in the rucks and get the ball from them. So I think that sort of shows what those Kamikaze twins are going to be about on Saturday. You're going to try to sort of outpace and try to get to the rucks first, and sort of they might see that the South Africa's pack, while it's massive and while it's physical, I'm not saying any of them are unfit, but they're going to try to sort of outrun them a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That just Judge, when I come on to you for your comments on England, a lot of South Africans I've seen on Twitter, and I'm seeing it here in the live chat, reckon we're going to dominate the set piece against England. I'm not so sure. I rate that English lineup very highly. To me, Itoje is the greatest athlete in world rugby. I'm sorry, the guy, I've always rated him incredibly highly, but I thought he played absolutely out of his skin. And I'm not saying that they're going to dominate us, but I think that battle of the packs is going to be almost 50-50. Do you see any of the teams getting an edge there?
No, I definitely don't think we're going to dominate. I think both sides will have their moments. I think it's going to be an incredible showdown. I don't see them not starting Underhill and Curry. So the other option would be for England is to have Laws on the side. That offers them another line-out option, and they can have Cruz and Itoje start in the locks. I think that's a decision that they're going to make in terms of what they want to do in terms of the line-out side of things. I think the other big question is are they going to have Slade at 13 or Tuilagi at 13? And that's obviously a Ford, Farrell, Tuilagi, or it's going to be a Farrell, Tuilagi, Slade option. I think in the beginning I was very pro Tuilagi at 13. I think on attack he offers way much more. I think he's brilliant attacker there in that channel. I think defensively, I've been shown I did a couple of things. I saw some stuff that Omar Munimi put together, and he put together about how dominant Slade is at 13 defensively, forcing intercepts, and also how great he is on attack. So that's a bit of a worry for me. I think our midfield pairing at the moment are very, very set and in tune with each other, and they understand their games very well. So we are in for a massive battle there. And I just think we've got to be very careful where we are. South Africans are very much, we like to have a one-off runner. So none of these tip-on passes. I think if you look at England, you look how quickly they shoot up in the line. They really have a really good line speed, and they like to double hit you. And if they stop us getting front foot ball, they'll rip us apart, because it'll force poor kicks, and it'll force poor kicks from 9 and from 10, or it'll force us to run it out wide and get us isolated, especially if they've got Underhill and Curry playing, who are incredible jacklers, So I think that's key. I think we need to make sure that we gain the advantage. They perhaps look at running it like a half a channel wider, like England do often do. They'd like to work it there and then just get those gaps that side. But I think whatever happens on Saturday, as what we thought with the New Zealand-England game, I think we are in for a cracking final. And I just hope that both teams are settled and comfortable and play their game, because we're going to be in for a showpiece of note.
Excellent. Tyler's just stepped out for a second catch. If you're the England manager, Eddie Jones, what are you up to? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't think anyone can get inside Eddie Jones's head. I think it might be quite crazy in there, but at least a little bit less, a little bit calmer than Checo's, that's for sure. I think it's going to be all about pace. I think last week it was the whole build up was physicality. I think he was really on it and telling his guys they need to get physical and out muscle New Zealand, and they probably did. And obviously they know they're going to stand up and face the box, but I don't think they're going to try and really out muscle us. They're just going to try and match it. And I think their key to success is going to be at the pace. They're going to try and beat us to the breakdown. With us not playing an outright feature, they're going to probably play both of theirs. So it's going to be all about pace there, and it's going to be pace at the back. I think they still play it a little bit wider. They do use some bash up with Tuilangi and the Vunipolas, but it's done at pace, and they've got those wraparounds. And Sinclair, he comes in and he can even handle scrum off and little pop passes and things like that. Itoje and Laws are good around the park as well. So to me, I think they're probably going to try and run us off our feet a little bit, not in terms of expansive play, but just in terms of keeping the ball alive and trying to make us run around a little bit more and getting the big boys. The big perception everywhere is that the Boks are this big slow team, and I think that's going to be Eddie's focus is to try and catch us out there. And I think it's a little bit unfair. I think we're decently fit and we could get around the park, but yeah, that's probably where I see them trying to attack us. And the forward one is going to be tough because I think he had a heck of a game, and he probably would have been keen to switch him around this week. But I think he'll stay there. And Ford is also a guy who likes to speed up the play, and with him and Farrell there, they just got so much more options. So it might be a little bit of a concern that Damien Dailende and Pollard being physical guys running at that channel, and he would have been better with Tuilangi playing one in, but I don't think he's going to go there this time around. I think he's going to stick to that combination. And as I said, try and do a few little passes and things like that. I think from England's point of view, they're going to be a little bit more, attacking pretty much like they were against New Zealand, not as conservative as we are going to be.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to talk about Ford. And I mean, Eddie Jones, we spoke about on the last week's show, he spoke about changing his role, not dropping him to the bench. And I saw quite a nice chirp where someone said he hasn't knocked Hansen out the World Cup. He's changed his role and he's got him playing for the bronze medal position now as well. So anyway, I'm going to enjoy that one. We won't speak too much about that one, but we'll talk about the bronze medal match in the betting show on Thursday night because, of course, it might be a game no one wants to play in, but there's odds, and I actually find it normally quite a nice game to bet on. So we will chat. We will chat about that one. Well, let's go down to Judge then to start us off on the box then, Judge. So as far as the box goes, we've started our last two games with a 6-2 bench. Frans Steyn and Herschel Yankee's been our two backline reserves. We've sort of spoken. Not much is probably going to change in the starting lineup. Does Rassie continue with that? I mean, if we saw the Welsh injuries on the weekend, the likes of Ford going down and stuff, it's a gamble going in there with a 6-2 bench, but it seems to be what Rassie believes is our best chance of winning.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually wanted to jump straight on that as well. I think we're in a very interesting space. A 6-2 bench only hurts you once, and then you realize that it's a bad idea, and then you don't do it again. And I'm a little bit apprehensive about it. Rassie was very clear about why he named a 6-2, especially against Japan, is because he didn't feel that it was particularly to dominate them up front. It was just that they are more mobile, and he wants to make sure that the forward pack stays fresh for longer with an extra man. So I understand that completely. It's great. It's great insight. I think England are going to want to do that to us, and that's an option for us again this weekend. I will, however, say if Colby's going to be back and fit, how fit is he? And if Colby starts, are we willing to take that risk with him possibly going down? So that's a big thing for me. Is if we start Colby, I think we'll probably have to do away with the 6-2. I'm just a bit worried. I'm sucking thumb here. I really don't know what his injury is like and if he will be 100% fit. But I just think that's a big thing. I think if we're going to take another bit of a gamble, is then maybe have Kwagga on the bench because he can play in the back line if need be. But I don't think the bench will change too much if we're going to do a 6-2 split. The other option is having Reinach in as a scrum off and not Jantjies, because Reinach's got the pace to play on the wing if need be. So there's a hell of a lot of questions and a hell of a lot of options that Rassie needs to look at. Personally, I think the 6-2's a little bit risky. And I always think it is, especially now, and I'm just a bit apprehensive as to what we'll use with it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he goes with. Tyler, let me bring you in there. Give us a comments there. If you've got any comments on the bench, but also talk to me about game plan. I mean, does Rassie? You got to think that he's got to. I mean, he's got to vary things and mix it up a little bit. He's surely not going to go in with exactly the same game plan as we went against Wales.
Yeah, I mean, we played England 4 times last year, and the games had a pretty similar pattern. Well, 3 out of the 4. England started hard and fast. They got us under pressure. They were big on the tackles. They were big on attack, and they exposed. It was obviously Gossi and Yankee's first test, but they exposed them quickly with that rush defense, and they got tries for Johnny May and Elliot Daly quite easily. And then how we got back into the game was that we then just stood up for ourselves a little bit and dusted ourselves off, and we pushed back hard against them, and we, started hitting them back and started putting them under pressure. And then I think the weakness that England has is that I do think that they're a bit, or they tend to lose a bit of steam in the second half, and they tend to lose a bit of steam also in the last 10 minutes of the half. So even in the New Zealand game, in the 30th or 40th minute, England was making a lot of mistakes, and they were sort of getting hit back a little bit by Kieran Reid and by Scott Barrett. And, you could see New Zealand were trying to sort of get back into the game, but they couldn't sort of take advantage of those opportunities. So I do think that South Africa does have the ability of sort of withstanding that, but maybe last year Highveld and all that sort of stuff came into play as well. So I think what the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we win those individual battles. England is almost like a carbon copy of our side in a lot of ways. Itoje is there, Etzebeth. You can argue that Vunipola and Dwayne Firmino are quite similar. You can argue that, like someone like Jamie George is sort of almost a mix of Marks and Bonambi as well. So we need to win those individual battles. We need to sort of try to smash them back. And I do think basically, very cliche, very nice sport, but whoever wins the game now is going to win this test match. So, I mean, I saw some of the comments saying maybe we should try to start with our fetchers, start with people like Marks and Flo. I don't think that's going to actually make much of a difference. We just need to be able to clean them out. I don't think sort of trying to go fetcher for fetcher is going to be the game plan for that. I think Rassie has the right formula of, bringing on those people in the second half when people aren't getting to the rucks as quickly as possible, then trying to force penalties like that instead of, trying to sort of get penalties early, because refs will be a bit reluctant to maybe blow those penalties at the start even. So same sort of game plan. We just need to execute. I think that's what we're all waiting for. I think the Springboks have been sort of coasting on 70-80% of performance, and it would be great if they can sort of bring out their best performance in this game. And this is a game where they need to have probably the best performance of the last 2 years. And then just quickly on the 6-2, I agree with you fully, Judge. I'm also team have 3 backline players in your bench, but I did see how it worked with the Wales game. I must admit that's when I saw, okay, there is a lot of benefit in bringing on a new tight 5, because that's, I think, where we got the edge on Wales. And I do think we have better forwards to call on than England does on our bench. So maybe that is just a little argument for it. But I would also, especially with Colby and him maybe not being 100% fit if he plays, I would probably lean towards 5-3, but a 6-2 also works for that reason.
Just to mention to the guys watching, and whether you're watching the show live or you're watching the recorded version, those are the Twitter handles of the guys. Unfortunately, Judge Rugby is still trying to get his Twitter handle going again after getting a ban that I don't even think he knows much about. But that's the story with it. But you got Couch Critic H. Demand, and then LB was just saying he's enjoying Tyler's analysis. I said if you enjoy him on the show, you've got to follow him on Twitter, because he's absolutely top class on Twitter with his analysis as well. So give the guys a follow there on Twitter. Couch, I don't think I've asked you then about the South African game plan. Rassie Erasmus, what have you got in store for Eddie Jones? It's going to give him some sleepless nights.
Find the top of the stand and get your traffic lights going. That'll be my plan if I was Rassie Erasmus for this one. No, listen, on the 6-2, I have to say I think Rassie is very smart in terms of the 6-2. It works perfectly for us. It works perfectly in terms of the way we want to play and rejuvenate our back and keep going. But as the guy said, the only concern if that is you're taking a risk in terms of the backs, and also not only a risk. What I feel is, you can't make a tactical substitution in your backline as easily as you would normally, because that's what we saw in what was it, the New Zealand game. Is you can't just bring on everyone off the bench and then he's got no one if he's got a injury. So it's almost like Herschel Jantjies isn't playing as that impact player anymore. He's just playing as a injury substitute. So that's the issue there. And again, to me, the real problem is the Willie Leroux question again. And I think this past weekend he almost wanted to get him off and get Frans Steyn on, and it actually didn't look too bad for those few minutes he was on. So if he wants to do that earlier, then surely you've got to consider having that extra guy on the bench so that you can make a move of Frans Steyn after 60 minutes and still know that you've got two guys there for if something else goes wrong. So to me, it just means that tactically, you can't make any changes in your backline, and that's basically what Rassie has said, with his decisions, is that he's fully comfortable with that backline and he just hopes he doesn't get injuries and he plays them for 70 minutes and rather makes the tactics up front, which is fair enough, and it's worked for him. But in terms of strategy, it's going to be nothing really new. It's going to be 95%, 98%, same thing from the box. As the guy said, it's just better execution. They're going to out physical and just get in their faces, and it's going to be a lot of head-butting your head against the locker room before going out and doing that whole Argentinian thing. I think everyone's going to be chirping everyone's mom and really getting them psyched up, giving all the Yemen a slap and really just getting stuck in there. That's the only, it's got to be almost like that all call, everyone just go boss. That's going to be it for the box. Get in there, get Itoje irritated, get him off his game. RG, when he comes up, he's just going to be pulling everyone's headgear over their eyes and he's just going to be backslapping them and saying, well done for that penalty and that kind of thing. And it's just crucial for the box to keep their composure whilst doing it. That's the really, really difficult thing in terms of our game when we really try and get that mongrel on and get in their faces and tackle them back and get on there is to just keep it within the law. So that's going to be important for them. And after that, we just need one up and under the sticks going down and Faf clearing it and scoring under the post, and it's game over. So to me, I still think England are solid favourites in the box, need a little bit of luck, and they need to execute, spot on the day to try and have a chance. But they're in it. They've got a ticket to the dance, and let's see whether they can shuffle.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, Tyler alluded to it as well. I think everyone feels that for the box to win this, they really just have to be 100% execution. They've got to execute to the best of their ability. Guys, of course, I'm not going to leave the show without asking you guys for a prediction on the final. But let me share a little bit of my view. I see Judge, he hates those predictions. Naturally, I do expect you guys to go for the box. I've been amazed. Okay, so guys, just to look at it from an angle, I looked at this game. I thought England would be a good 8-point favourites for this game with the bookmakers. And my view was, look, first of all, that performance against New Zealand was something out of this world. It was superb. We do know that it's often hard to follow up one performance like that with another. I mean, you only have to look at golf. Guy shoots a 62 in the one round, and he more than often than not comes out and shoots a 72 in the next round. It may be difficult for them. South Africa have got a different style. But I'll tell you what my worry is about South Africa. We're a far better side than we were 2 years ago. Make no mistake, Rassie Erasmus has done a great job. But if I look at in this World Cup, what have we really done? We've lost to New Zealand. We've beaten Japan. And we've beaten a Wales side, and I guess this is where people might differ with me, but I say we've beaten a Wales side that were really there for the taking. If I watched Wales against France, if it wasn't for a reckless elbow by the French lock, I think France would have put Wales to bed. I just feel that Wales, like Ireland, had probably peaked a bit early for this World Cup. They've been hit by injuries. So I do make England firm favourites. It's not to say I'm not giving South Africa a chance here, but I'll start off with my prediction here. I'm going England by 15 points to win this one. And Judge, I see you hanging your jaw there. What have you got to say to that?
You don't want to hear what I have to say to that, actually. Yes. So listen, I get what you're saying about England. I do. I think they're form side by a mile. I think they are yet to. I've just kind of stepped into third gear. No one's put them under pressure, and the only side that in the world that would put them under pressure, they properly put to bed. So I think they are the form side. I think the pressure is on them. I think they are favourites. I think it's a World Cup final. I think, to be honest, England might have expected to probably get a look in. I don't think we expected to be there. So I reckon, like, we really think this is like an added bonus, like to really just change things up and make some unbelievable history, you know. So I think there's going to be like 5 or so points in it. I just hope we stay longer in the game. We can't let England get on top of us. They won't let us back in. So it's all going to go up to the first 20 minutes, half an hour, and we just make sure that we don't crumble. Because I think we've got what it takes to mentally get back in the mix, but I don't think England will actually physically score too many points afterwards if they've got a good strong lead. So I'm gonna say Boks by 5. I think I can't ever bet against my side. It goes against everything I know, but I will say one thing: this England side, we haven't seen this England side yet. They came to the World Cup and they started playing in the World Cup. They weren't playing before the World Cup. So they haven't seen us and we haven't seen them. So it's all to play for.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. I mean, I must say, this is one of these situations. Look, you know, if you bet on someone at the start of the World Cup, there's a good chance they're going to meet your side at some stage. So I backed England. I had to know in the back of my mind that we could meet South Africa. But the fact is I put my money down on England. And I'm at that point now. And I can honestly say it's been a successful World Cup for me betting-wise. I've got some nice bets that will be arriving in terms of I predicted a very low-scoring World Cup. So the pressure's not that great. I have a nice win if England win. Obviously, I would like that. But it honestly is one of those times, if I don't win my bet, well, you know, I'll just be happy for the country that we won the World Cup. But it is hard at the end of the day when you've been calling England all the way through to suddenly change tune as well. And Tyler, let's bring you in there and get your prediction and how far out you think my England by 15 is going to be.
Brent, about that one. Look, I was thinking about it today, just in sort of preparing sort of my thoughts for the show. I mean, in my memory, I'm maybe a little bit younger than everyone else, but in my memory, I think the only time where an underdog has won a World Cup final was 1995.
Yes.
Maybe 2003. I think you can maybe argue that England playing at Australia might have been a bit of an underdog situation, but they were the best team in the world. So it usually favors that the team on form, the more established team, is the one that wins. Second thing is very quickly that I think this is one of those games where I think both teams, I'm not so sold on them chasing the game. I'm not so sold on them chasing a 10-point lead in the last 20 minutes, just because both teams are a little bit sort of they're sort of the Jose Mourinho football team. They want to score the early goals and park the bus. So I think the team that can get a 10-point lead first might be the one that wins the game. So be it England trying to get a fast start, be it South Africa maybe trying to sort of throw caution to the wind early and try to get a few quick tries. I think that might be the way to sort of win this game. But I'm going to go England by 3. I think it's going to be a fast start from England, a few drop goals. We might then score a try and get ahead, maybe at halftime, but a few points. England then sort of catches us early in the second half, gets a 10-point lead. We score one maybe in the last 10 minutes, and then we just aren't able to do enough to get over the line. So I'm going to go England by 3. But I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I can see let's say 21-18 type of scoreline.
Yeah, that's sort of what you're expecting in the World Cup. Welcome to Campo. I haven't seen him before on one of the shows. He reckons Eddie Jones could possibly be the difference in this game. Interesting. Just to mention, I write an article for The Citizen, a blog once a week, and I've been thinking about what to write this week, and I think I'm going to be writing about wallet versus heart and whether or not I'll be watching the game home alone in my lounge, because Chris McGowan made the comment there earlier. He says, am I going to go into isolation? Because I think the last thing I want to be is standing in a pub somewhere with 50 Springbok supporters and suddenly go ballistic when England score a try. So I think I might be watching this one home alone and just take it from there. But that's going to be my article this week. Kach, I haven't got your prediction yet, I don't think.
Yeah, Brent, it's a game for the quiet fist pump, eh? You're gonna be there in a Bok jersey, but doing the quiet fist pump under the table when no one's looking. So that's in punting terms. That's when you really realize how much money is worth something for you. You know, when the wallet starts talking louder than the heart, you know you've put down a decent sized punt there. But I'm going to be in the same boat. I mean, I'm everyone at work knows me as a big rugby guy. So it's Bok jerseys this whole week, and then come Saturday, I'm going to be shouting England home. So it's going to be a bit strange for me. But I think it's I'm with you on this one. It's 19 to England, 9 to the Boks. I think England will pretty much get the job done. I think. Tala saying that the team that builds up a 10-point lead is going to win the game isn't the bravest call I've ever heard. I think you've got a pretty decent chance to win the game if you get 10 points ahead in the final. But no, I think the team that there's only one team that can get 10 points ahead in this game, and that's going to be England. And I think let's just say, you know, I'm on England and I'm not taking cover on the Boks. I'm with you, Brent. If the Springboks do win, it's going to be great. I was on the airport on Sunday, and there were so many people in green and gold. I mean, the majority of them wouldn't have been able to watch the game. And I watched the first half, and then had to get on the plane. And I was there with some guys who were on a golf tour apparently, so they had more alcohol in their bloodstream than blood, and not a lot of sleep. But as we were taxiing out, they were still doing the cell phone score, and the poor steward guy had to ask him like 5 times to switch off. And the only problem for me was that it was 16 all as we got in the air there, and we waited for the captain to give us the final score. But you know, it was just so nice to see everyone united and everyone worried about the score and everyone celebrating when we heard we threw. So it's, you know, it would be great. I honestly would love to hear that the Boks win the game, and I'd shout them home, you know, 100%. But I wouldn't mind counting the money afterwards either.
Okay, excellent. So Kach and I in a similar position there. It's going to be wallet against heart. Guys, anything else you want to add on the finals? Is this one topic we just want to have a quick chat about, which is the RB Player of the Year? But anything else you want to add on the final? Nothing else there. Nothing from Judge. Nothing from Kach. And Tala, let me bring you in if you want to add anything.
Brent, I think poor Sean is stunned. You can just see he can't believe that we've gone against the Boks there. He's speechless.
He's speechless. And Tyler, I know you wanted to just talk about the Player of the Year. I haven't actually looked at all. They got all the nominees and that obviously out.
No, I don't think so. I think it's coming out during the week. I think on Tuesday or Wednesday I heard somewhere. But I think it's probably going to be just like it was in 2015, sort of whoever's the winning team will probably produce the Player of the Year, because they sort of are a bit sort of World Cup dominant in their analysis. So I think basically the big options for England will probably be Itoje, Curry, Underhill, and Owen Farrell. And then if it's the Springboks, rising from the ashes, Damien Dialendi, turning public opinion person by person every game, and maybe someone like Peter Steph du Toit and obviously Ches and Colby as well. So maybe it might be a case of whoever's man of the match. I said on Twitter my money's on Itoje, but I can see maybe even Cheslin, if he is the sort of the magic man, the difference in that in the final, he could sort of steal it, because it's going to be awarded, I think, on the Sunday. So I think it's going to probably be whoever's the man of the match in the final will probably get that award on Sunday.
Okay, yes. Are we talking a player of the tournament, or are we talking the player of the year? Player of the year. Okay. But as you say, they've been in a World Cup year. It's obviously going to have a big bearing in terms of that. I'll just pop to the other guys quickly and see if they got any opinion. Couch?
Oh, Brent, there's only one guy that's winning Player of the Year this year, and that's none other than Peter Steph du Toit. He's the man. He's in a different league as a loose forward. He's playing in a team that's probably not technically the best side, but he just lifts them with his presence and the way he plays. You know, there are obviously quite a few candidates for England, and if England win the tournament, they're going to be pushing it. But, you know, the Boks also won the Rugby Championships, and to me, you know, he's a standout performer, and he's the guy to take the award for me.
Right, and Judge, anything from you on the Player of the Year? Any thoughts?
I think it's between Pieter-Steph du Toit, Owen Farrell, and I think maybe Chesn Colby might have a little bit of a shot. I think Ardie Severe will get a mention as well. But I think between Owen Farrell and Pieter-Steph du Toit, front runners for me, without a shadow of a doubt. I do know that obviously the World Cup showing is a massive influence. I think if it was on that alone, I think Damien would get a look in. I think he's been incredible in the World Cup. I think Makazole Mapimpi as well has been really good. Johnny May, so if you like it, both sides have got some really good players, but I think Owen Farrell and Pieter-Steph du Toit are streets ahead.
Yeah, I think they're going to be on. But I do like Itoje as well as having a good chance. So it'll be interesting to watch, and maybe we'll touch on that on our Thursday night show if we do see some betting on that. It'll be interesting to see what the bookmakers fancy. But guys, it brings us to the end of a marathon show. I mean, to think we're really only talking about one game, and quite often we've sat and talked about 7 games and had less. But that just shows the excitement around this World Cup. Everything's boiling up. I had to sort of remind myself that it was Monday night when I was chatting with guys on Twitter. We've still got a long time to go until we get to this World Cup, and it's just going to continue building there. So, Judge, first of all, thanks to you for joining us. Sorry about that England prediction. I could see that threw you right, of course. But yeah, I've got no doubt you'll be shouting those box home, and for your sake, I hope they arrive.
100%. Thanks so much again. I had to just double check your area codes on both of you two on the top there when you made your calls. But yeah, good luck with that.
It's certainly something that happens to you when you bet for many years. You become very, very hardened to it. And as much as you still support the country, you tend to get governed by stats and this and that and whatever you feel. But so that's why my advice to you, if you're not involved in betting yet, then don't start. You'll never be faced with the dilemma that I have. Tyler, great having you on the show. Look forward to following you on Twitter over the coming days. If your activity today is anything to go by, I think it's going to be a busy week for you in the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I think I'm going to definitely put the Twitter away for the rest of the year after the World Cup final. There won't be anything really to talk about. I'll maybe jump on maybe when the cricket test series starts, when England comes over. But guys, if England wins this World Cup, they would have won the Cricket World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. Liverpool might win the Club World Cup. Lewis Hamilton is dominating Formula One. We really have to stop this. We're actually the last hope for the world, basically, in terms of making England dominant in each and every sport. So, yeah, I think the world is sort of backing us to get this win.
I agree with Tyler there, Kach. I think there's no doubt about it. The rest of the world is really pulling for us to beat England.
Brent, everyone except me there, because I've got that cricket and rugby double. So obviously it's good news for me if they go and produce that. So that would be great. But no, it was nice being here again, Brent, and thanks for everyone of the comments. It was nice seeing them having a chat as well. And obviously everyone is super excited for this coming weekend. And yeah, it's just great seeing the Boks in the final. And lastly, also I think it's great seeing a North-South game in the final. We see the All Blacks in the Boks, 3 times a year basically, and you see them in Super Rugby and everything. So it's really nice seeing two hemispheres against each other, and it's going to be a cracker.
It certainly is. And thanks to all the guys in the live chat. It really was good seeing you. We had a few guys watching on Facebook as well. I think that's going to start growing over the weeks as well. Although we might also probably slow down the show a little bit as we come towards the end of the year and pick it up again coming into Super Rugby. But thanks to everyone in the live chat. Thanks to all the guests. Remember, if you are interested in the betting angle, then Thursday night, 9:00 is the handicap rugby chat that matters. Enjoy your week, everyone, and let's build up to a great World Cup final. Cheers, guys.